Hi everybody, Tachyon here. If you are seeing this video, either you already know me or you really are a Galaxy Eyes Tachyon fan, and I'm about to show you what I believe is the last optimized and relatively competitive Galaxy Eyes Tachyon deck in the TCG. So if none of these make sense to you, this video is not for you, and if it does, then let's get into it. So the deck starts with 3 copies of Infinity Dragon. It's a classic. You just need to bear in mind, which will be an important plot point of this deck. This will lock you in to Xyz Dragon summons for the rest of the turn. A Galactic Spiral Dragon, again a classic. I've used Spiral Dragon in lieu of Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon and Afterglow Dragons. That's because those are 2 bricks, whereas Spiral Dragon is a single brick. Then we have 2 Tachyon Primals, because you need 2, and the third one is going to be a brick. Again, I try to heavily optimize this. 2 is the ideal number. A Nebula Dragon. So Nebula Dragon is useful for 2 scenarios, actually 3. First one, of course, you have a brick level 8 and you want to summon it on the field with Nebula Dragon, sure. But it may be the case that you actually bricked with Spiral Dragon and you need a viable Infinity Dragon target in the deck. So existence of Nebula Dragon makes it so that you have the additional capability of Nebula Dragon, and you also don't get bricked by drawing Spiral Dragon if you have a way to get to Infinity Dragon. So these are classic Tachyon deck cards, but the next item is going to be also relatively classic. It's a Dark End of Operation Dragon. In case you're not familiar with this, it can banish a level 8 dragon monster. Yeah, I was checking if it was an attribute. And special summon itself. And it has 2 additional effects, either fusion summon and or destroy one attack position monster. So again, Infinity Dragon will lock you to Xyz alongside a 7 Tachyon. So the second effect is seldom useful, but it will be relevant. So now the other item is Light and Darkness Dragon. So Light and Darkness Dragon is not from the extra deck, because it has a Dragon Lord which is from the extra deck. So if you draw this, and if you have a way of getting into the Infinity Dragon, then you have immediate 4 Omni Negate on the field from these 2 cards. Of course, in TCG that's not going to be enough. However, it just means that it is relatively easy to get Light and Darkness Dragon onto the field. Again, it's a light level 8, so you can also search it with 7 Tachyon. However, I do not recommend it. And let's get into why that is later, because the next card is 3 copies of Seyfert. So, again, classic card. You want 3 copies. You can also utilize Nebula Dragon to get Seyfert back to your hand. Just a reminder. But only 1 copy of Cloud Dragon. So I have seen some decks use 2 or 3. The issue is the TCG has evolved into a point where you need to solve everything in the first or second turn. And Tachyon Cloud Dragon has 3 effects, and all 3 of them are once per turn. So it kind of locks us if we draw a Cloud Dragon and a Safer at the same time, or 2 Cloud Dragons at the same time. So the optimal number that I have come across after playtesting 1 or 2 was absolutely only 1 Cloud Dragon. You don't want to draw Cloud Dragon. You want to draw Safer, then get to Cloud Dragon. In the case that you draw Cloud Dragon, of course you can normal summon it, but you just want to avoid that. And once you use all 3 effects, it kind of will become a brick, or you won't be able to use a second copy of it. So just one copy, okay? And then we have 1 Ash Blossom, 1 Droll and Knockbird, 1 Fuelos. So the main point of this is cross out designator targets. Also, yeah, hand traps. However, this deck is heavily optimized. It doesn't have room for hand traps. So the main purpose is to protect against getting drilled, which is one of the weakest decks that you can drill against. Also Ash, when you're trying to search your first 7 Tachyon and kind of get locked out. This deck is not the best, I acknowledge that. However, I just personally enjoy playing and optimizing this deck to this point, which I think there is no further optimization I can do. So I'm making this video. So then we have a small bestial engine here. Branded Regain, Magnum Hunt, Roots from Rebellion. So we're trying to again minimize the amount of cards, but we're also trying to get a Branded Regained on the field as much as possible. In the unlikely case that you use Nebula Dragon's effect, they're all dragons. There are many effects all around Infinity Dragon, Spiral Dragon, Seifert, and the other 2 bestials that banish, so that you can use Regain to get some of those cards, get additional draws. Magnum HUDs, especially at the end of the turn, giving your Galaxy Ice Tachyon Primal back from deck or from graveyard to hand. You can use that in your opponent's turn to get another Tachyon spell trap and bamboozle them, frankly. As part of the Tachyon theme, we have classic 3 7th Ascensions, 3 7 Tachyons. In the case that you don't know what 7th Ascension is, it is an additional way to search for 7 Tachyon, but it increases your chances of getting drolled. However, it has a second effect, which goes really well with Rank Up Magic's 7th one. So, peradventure, you are starting the game as the second player, or you already drew a 7 Tachyon in your hand. You can use 7th Ascension to also search for Rank Up Magic, the 7th one. And if your opponent controls a monster summoned from extra deck, then you can activate 7th Ascension's second effect, which is from graveyard. By banishing Ascension and discarding the 7th one, you basically activate the effect of the 7th one and summon a C107 Tachyon Dragon immediately without anything else. So that gives you an opportunity to at least exhaust some of your opponent's negates if they already have some set up on the field. And if you have a transmigration in your hand already, then you can actually resolve the effect of C107, basically making your opponent not play on their field until the end of the turn. So that gives you a huge advantage. It is a brick. But even if you drove it in as the first going player, you do need fuel for the 7th Tachyon, so you can use that instead. Next spell cards are 3 thrusts. The additional synergy the Tachyon deck has with thrust and of course talent is that the Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Primal, which is a core card in this deck, can be summoned to either side of the field, and its effect activates without asking the players. So basically, once you summon Tachyon Primal to the opponent's field, by the Tachyon Spell Trap card effect activating, you're also enabling to use Thrust and Talent without an active interaction from your opponent necessarily. So it significantly increases your opportunities to use Thrust and Talent in this deck, which is why I think we need to go with 3 thrusts. Okay, now 3 super polys. Let me cook. Alright, let me cook. Just bear that in mind. 3 super polys. Cross out, I said cross out Targus. This is a cross out. Called by the Grave. You have to have this, I think. Harpy's Feather Duster. It is a good thrust target if you're going second and your opponent has a lot of spell traps set up for your monsters. It's also a cross out designated target. And then our the final spell card is Tachyon Spiral of Destruction. This most of the times is a replacement for Tachyon Transmigration. So let me just reveal the other Tachyon cards. Tachyon Transmigration, the best hand trap card in the game. Tachyon Spiral of Galaxy and Lord of Tachyon Galaxy. Okay, so particularly if you're at least a decent player who knows what these cards are, you're gonna be like, why did you ever consider putting this card into this deck? You never get this condition, which is a very fair point. Also, the before I go more into Tachyon, the remaining card is an imperm. It's both a cross-out target and also thrust target. If you get thrust and you don't have anything else to do, you can just use that to get imperm. And yeah, it's just a good card imperm, you know. Okay, all right, let's start with the simplest one, Transmigration. It's your Omni Negate. You gotta have this, right? Okay, so that's sorted. But why these 3 instead of 2 more copies of Transmigration? So, Spiral Destruction, the effect that enables you to get back a Tachyon card from graveyard to hand, means that if you use your Transmigration for the first time, and your opponent thinks you don't have another one, because you literally don't have another one in your deck, then immediately after you can activate this to take it back to your hand and then activate it again, because it's not once per turn. The other bit is, it goes well when you use the rank up 7th one's effect using 7th Ascension, because if you are able to negate all the face-up cards using C107, then you just need to use this to wipe the whole board, destroy all the face-up cards. The other one also is, if somehow your opponent tributes your 107 and you still have Tachyon, Spiral Galaxy, or Transmigration in your hand, you can use this to special summon 107 back, so that hand traps still work, which is part of the bamboozling that we want to do. Okay, so getting back to these 2. So first and foremost, Lord of Tachyon Galaxy is the weakest card here. Like, it's, you don't want to draw this unless rest of your hand is perfect. Okay, the particular effect is, if your Galaxy Eyes is it an Exceed monster? Yeah. If your Galaxy Eyes Exceed monster survives until the battle phase, which is saying something in the current state of the TCG, right? And either you have this card as set, or you have a 107 on the field, so you can activate it from hand, and you need to have a material. You activate this, detach one material, shuffle all monsters that my opponent controls that were special summoned or normal summoned back to the deck that turn. Special summoned or normal summoned that turn, right? So this renders all of those summons just wasted. However, if your opponent knows what this card does, or knows that you have this card, right, it's gonna be a problem. So this is a very situational card, and almost nobody puts this into their deck, particularly in TCG. Rather than this, you just get another Tachyon Transmigration, two copies, and with this you can have 3 copies, right? And just go with that. However, I have recently experimented and discovered that Tachyon Spiral Galaxy has a very good synergy with Lord of Tachyon Galaxy. How? So I observed that there were 2 problems with Lord of Tachyon Galaxy, right? First, your opponent knows you have it, so they can just skip the battle phase and set up their board in the main 2. Second one is, if they know you have this card, or they're just playing TCG, one of like meta decks, the chances of you being able to stop your opponent with Transmigration, even like 3 copies of Transmigration plus a Spiral as a 4th copy, there is still a chance that your 107 is not going to survive. And I think with every set, this chance is getting higher and higher. So, Tachyon Spiral Galaxy, making your Xyz monster invincible, both in terms of being affected by other card effects and also battle, ensures the survival of 107 until the battle phase, which then you can activate Lord of Tachyon Galaxy and completely board wipe your opponent's monsters. How does that look in practice? And how can we bamboozle our opponent to do that, right? So, well, before we go into that, let's talk about extra deck. So we have a Cypher Dragon. Cypher Dragon takes control of your opponent's monster, 2 level 8 Xyz monsters. It also can then be used to summon Cypher X Dragon on top of it, or on top of the monster that it took control of. If you go with summoning this on top of the monster you took control of, ensure that you have a Cloud Dragon in your graveyard or hand, so that you can attach it as a material to activate the effect of Cypher X Dragon to make your light monsters untargetable until the end of the turn. Sorry, end of the next turn. Then Cypher Blade Dragon you can summon on top, is also just use the Cypher X Dragon or Cypher Dragon or any other material to pop, which also goes well with Armored Photon Dragon, Full Armor Photon Dragon, where is a face-up pop. So, for example, let's say you take control of your opponent's monster, summon Cypher X on top of it, activate the effect Cypher X, and then you would want to ensure this one survives so that you can activate its effect to resummon Divine Golden Shadow Dragon. It's a very small possibility, but if it survives, it's a good effect to search another Galaxy or Tachyon card next turn. And then you can summon one, detach one, pop one, and then summon on top, detach one, pop one. So it's a good combo. It's a good combo. So the next is we have 2 copies of 107, as both you need a second target for 7 Tachyon, and also in case you use 107, rank up 7th one, you want to have one material to use for C107 and then for an additional summon. So yeah, 2 107s, 1 C107. For additional flexibility, a Drogoblion. It's also an additional body. Divine Golden Shadow Dragon, 1 copy, because TCG has evolved into a point where you don't have the opportunity to summon the 2nd copy in the 3rd turn or the 4th turn. You're not going to survive that easily, and both effects are once per turn, so there's no point having a 2nd copy, in my opinion. As to go with the 1 turn kill for 107 Galaxy Satellite Dragon, purely to attach as a material with the effect of Divine Golden Shadow Dragon. If you don't know this one turn kill, you need to know this. This is an essential part. Look it up. And then a number 38 and the number S38. So number 38 is really useful when you are going first, and S38 is useful when you're going second, so that you can pop 2 of your opponent's spell traps, or so those are the Galaxy Tachyon monsters, but we have 3 more monster slots, and now we're getting back to why we have those super polys. So first, Chaos Star Source Dragon. It is the target for Dark End Evaporation Dragon. By banishing it, you can summon Dark End Evaporation Dragon. Let me find it. Yeah, there it is. So you can summon it by banishing it, but if you have Branded Regained, you can put it back and even summon it using the effect of Dark End Evaporation Dragon with monsters in your hand as well, so that you can have both light and dark monsters on the field. It's just another point where synergy with Branded Regained is extremely convenient. Either ways, as a valid super poly target to break your opponent's board, we have Garura. Not much explanation needed. And the other one, as you may have guessed by now, Light and Darkness Dragon Lord. Potentially this gives you 4 plus 3 plus 8 Omni Negates. Ideally. If you draw a super poly and are able to do the basic combo. So how does that work? So let me so let's say we draw a super poly and an infinity dragon, and we have a brick. Let's say we have a brick, right? So I activate Infinity Dragon, summon with Spiral Dragon, and then Divine Golden Shadow Dragon. On summon effect to search a Tachyon card. I'm going to search Tachyon Primal. Tachyon Primal effect to special summon. On summon effect to search a spell trap. Tachyon spell trap, right? So I'm going to get a Transmigration. Activate the effect of Divine Golden Shadow Dragon to XC summon with a Galaxy monster from extra deck as a material. So material is there. C107. So at this point you are protected with the Transmigration against a Nibiru. And then you summon Spiral Dragon. Right? And then set this card and turn. So normally one could summon number 33, but we're not gonna do that. Why? Because at your opponent's draw phase, we are going to activate Super Poly to XC summon. Sorry, Fusion Summon. The Light and Darkness Dragon, right? So this gives us 3 omni negates. And in the case that the opponent answers to the effect of Dragon Lord, we have a transmigration to negate that. However, this board is weak when your opponent uses 2 omni negates and then summons a weak monster, proceeds to battle phase, and attacks the Light and Darkness Dragon Lord, right? So going back to the hand we had, right? So this was our hand. In the case that you drew, let's say, Lubellion or Dark End, so either would be fine, or a Druid Swarm, or what was the Magnum Huts, right? And Light and Darkness Dragon. Okay, so this is a very particular hand where you need to have drawn Light and Darkness Dragon or any of these and a brick. This is gonna come to your hand later. It is a small chance, however, still possible that you draw. Again, this is a brick card, can be anything. One of these 4 alongside Light and Darkness Dragon, or you have drawn one of these 3/7 Tachyons or 7 Ascensions, so that you can search Lubellion or Light and Darkness Dragon. So there is a high probability that you can end up with such hand, right? And you haven't used your normal summon yet, or you just so you can, for example, let's say I have a Druid Swarm in my hand. I was lucky, right? Banish Infinity Dragon, special summon, and then normal summon. Okay, and then set. So, and then we have 2 cards in hand, 1 brick, 1 transmigration. So this is the 7 negates, sorry, 8 negates situation. What likely will happen is the first effect by your opponent will get negated, maybe the second, and then before activating the third effect, your opponent moves to battle phase and then declares an attack to Light and Darkness Dragon, right? And then you activate Super Poly when they're attacking you. So because Super Poly, neither monsters can activate effects in response, Light and Darkness will not negate the Super Poly. So in the battle phase, you will gain additional 3 negates. That will throw them off the game, right? So alongside the regular Tachyon combo, I think this goes really well and gives you a crazy amount of Omni Negates if things go well. The problem with this deck is that things don't go well like more than half of the time. And that's because of the current state the Yu-Gi-Oh! As a game is in, the modern format. I hope some better support comes, but until then, I believe this is the heavily optimized version. And if you stayed all this time in this video, thank you so much for listening and watching, and let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you.